all for being here. This is the webinar for Envisioning a Greener New Deal.
And that is not the case.
I'm sorry, who's talking? Hello? Okay. Just let me offer a short introduction to what we're doing here today. We must halt environmental destruction while providing a better quality of life for everyone on Earth. Since our hope has been that alternative energy can replace nuclear, can replace fossil fuels, it can be overwhelming to learn its limitations. How real are concerns with nuclear, solar, wind, and hydropower? How can overcoming capitalism help attain the social justice and shorter work week that humanity needs? This webinar will explore core issues involved in creating a better world while using vastly less energy and producing what we need for a brighter future. So I would love to introduce to you Ms. Joan McKiernan of Broome, Tioga Green Party Eco-Socialist active in the anti-fracking movement in New York State. She's now opposing industrial wind turbines. I believe Joan has some slides she's going to share with us. Thank you, Joan.
Okay. I can't find it. The slide screen. Hi, everybody. Thanks. Sorry for the delay. I'm just getting myself organized here. Look, the Green Party in Broome, Tioga is where I'm from. We are in New York State, along the border with Pennsylvania, and I'll be referring to the past campaigns that we had and the current campaign that we're involved in against the wind turbine. This is really exciting. Thanks so much for all of you for coming. It's a really great time to be starting to talking about this with the openings that we have. Biden going to Congress with very inadequate proposals, but bringing us back into the world, fighting the climate crisis. You know, we still have all the problems with the skeptics in the United States, with the climate deniers, both in government and around the country. But at least we got openings, and somebody was referring before to the Green New Deal. People are talking about the Green New Deal, and we're going to be talking about it to make it better. But at least people are beginning to talk about it and beginning to make proposals, again, as inadequate as they are. Now, right now, this is urgent. You know, climate crisis is still there. We've been through a pandemic. We're still in a pandemic when we have seen sort of the heights and the low points of what humanity, creativity and capability can do or don't do, as the case may be. Now, what we're one of the big things, I want to just situate this in New York State, in this southern tier, to try to explain why it has been that so many renewable projects are able to get through so easily without really serious thought. And our example is one. The southern tier of New York is part of Appalachia with all the characteristics of Appalachia: high unemployment, poverty, lack of economic development, lower educational achievement, and all those kinds of problems. So what it is people are government, people, farmers, I forgot, agribusiness has, you know, ruined farming, family farms at least, and that's true throughout the United States, and we find that in New York State as well. So everybody's looking for a solution. So the first solution that we got was, Karen, this isn't working. Karen, it's not working. Okay. We actually had industry in the area where this is the heart of the home of IBM, which was there from the early 2000s, 1900s, and left in the 1970s, took the jobs, took everything with it, and left a big brown site, which 50 years later, we're just getting over. Okay, so in order to overcome all of that, people grabbed onto the first opportunity, which was fracking. Fracking, here's where we are down here. And this is Pennsylvania, where all the oil and gas is. And this is all part of the Marcellus Shale, but everybody wanted to frack, right? It was the solution. Well, we got that out. We won, we beat it. Okay. We didn't beat getting rid of fracking infrastructure. This is an old map, because what's been happening ever since is pipelines. See, we're here, we have a compressor station there. There's another one down there. There's another one right over here, right next to where we are. And this is where they're trying now with the new one to build wind turbines. Everybody is looking for a solution for jobs, a solution for all these poverty-stricken towns to have money to pay for their roads and all the other things they need, a solution for the climate, and a solution, of course, for gas companies who want to make more money, right? Want to keep in profits. And that's what it's all about. We had Bluestone Gas bringing gas up from Pennsylvania. Now we have Bluestone Wind running turbines. This also helps get jobs for all the guys down in Texas and Oklahoma, the landmen. They're now coming up here trying to convince and sell leases, convince farmers to buy leases. So it's a solution for everybody, but I want you to keep in mind, is it a solution for the planet? Is it a solution for us ordinary people in any way? Okay, so this is one of the, we're looking for renewables. We're looking for something to stop the climate crisis, right? And one of the things are, you know, we're looking at all these, well, we're going to have windmills, we're going to have solar, we're going to have electric cars. For all of those things, particularly electric cars, you need batteries. Batteries need lithium. Lithium needs mining, okay? This is Nevada. It's called Thacker Pass. And this is Warriors Dreamer, can Thacker Pass and mining be stopped? See the campaigners down here along the ridge, okay? And I want to read just a bit of what they are saying. Why would the Bureau of Land Management allow lithium in Nevada to dam this place? There are no lights or human sounds anywhere. This land is so wild and free and unspoiled. But it may not be this way next year, because construction is supposed to start in 2021. This year, right? Who will speak for the voiceless, I wonder? Who will make amends for their suffering? And just to give you a few examples, and these are the only numbers I'm going to use, lithium mine would destroy approximately over 5,000 acres of land, pump up to over 3,000 gallons of groundwater per minute, utilize 2,900 tons of acid. Tell me what's green. Tell me what's pure. Hundreds of tons of solar waste from oil refineries will be trucked in and burned daily. That's a bit. Okay. Next, we get where we are, wind turbines. Now, when I first heard about this, I said, well, like I think everybody else does, what's wrong with wind? Wind is free, it's clear, it's green, wonderful, right? Joan, well, I'll start with the problems. Okay, this is the logo for the Green Party promotion for the Green New Deal. Okay, you see what's wrong with this? You get the turbines, right? If you have this, you can't have this. You cannot have trees and turbines. Make your choice. So what's happening is, instead of reforestation around the country, what we are having is deforestation. Keeping trees, you know, we all know, in the ground where they already are. Keep the trees in the ground, keep the fuel in the ground. That's what we want to do.
Joan,
growing trees.
5 minutes, just notice 5 minutes.
Okay, got you. Growing trees is an effective way to slow down climate change, but we're getting rid of the trees. Turbines are based on fossil fuel. You cannot make them, maintain them, or use them without fossil fuels. And we have lots of jokes, you know, guys, your electric turbines are leaking all behind my house, right? And this is what happens. Trees store carbon, but a wind farm produces power. You take your choice, which is greener. This is from Christian Science Monitor recently. They came to our roads, and these are the roads where they're going to be moving the heavy equipment up. And this is what happens. You've got to get rid of the trees. And you see all these stumps, they're going to get rid of them too. They're going to have to do that by blasting. Now, we're worried. We use our water all comes from wells. Our wells, and this is a very fragile environment, a very fragile hill. and they're going to be blasting away to get rid of all the stumps. So we were all having a water tester because we know it's going to be polluted. We can't have these either. If you have these, you don't have these guys. And these companies, these governments, they actually bargain with each other about how many eagles you're going to kill each year. You know, I don't think that's green. Turbines that are going up in our area are the height of the Empire State Building when they're going to be built. These were supposed to be originally ocean going turbines, not for use on land, but we're getting them there and up to 1,700 feet. In order to have turbines, you have to build massive concrete platforms. Concrete is a polluting substance. But you're going to, so this is all going to be draining down into our streams, rivers, and I didn't even get to talk about the fish, which we have very, very special native rainbow trout. They're going to be all gone. So all of these areas, this is upstate New York, all of these are wind turbine projects. They're all the poorer areas of the state, the places where they have least political clout. And that's the way it is throughout the world. It's not in the vacation areas like over here. It's not down here in the Hudson Valley. It's up where people are poor and they take advantage of poor people and put these turbines in. And what for? Do we need extra energy for what we need as people, as working class people? No. The corporations, the capitalists do. To build things like these structures. And these are for oligarchs to go and buy apartments and come and stay there for maybe a week or two a year in New York City and enjoy the view. That's not good enough. Okay. Are they getting rid of other energy? No, what they're doing is they are, you know, all the energy that's coming from Pennsylvania, all the gas is coming, keeps coming, and they keep adding it. On top of that, they're doing the wind turbines and they're doing solar, right? They're building it up. They're not getting rid of anything. So while I campaign with these people in North Brooklyn, they're still fighting in Brooklyn in a very crowded area. They're fighting against frack gas pipeline, right? I was on a picket line. Anyway, I'll forget that. Anyway, so we're still fighting here. And I watch every morning National Wind Watch to see what's going around the world. Here they won something in Kansas. And here in Maine, and I'll finish with these guys, around the world, the fishermen are losing their jobs. We're losing our fish, right? Well, up in Maine, they're protesting, and what they're doing is they're getting their boats. See, there's a line of boats. They're sailing out to where the transmission line is to do their protest there and to stop the transmission line. And they have a bill in the legislature there to have no ocean going power turbines at all. Okay. And we need to support them because people are fighting back in a serious way.
Joan, your time.
We need to finish, and I'm finished, system change in order to get climate change. We need to get rid of capitalism, which is the source of all this. We can only get system change in order to get climate change for us, not for billionaires to make more profits, but for us to have good lives. Good night, everybody. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Joan, for all that great information. That was great. Next up, we've got Katie Singer from www.ourweb.tech. She reports on renewable power systems, cradle to grave energy use, greenhouse gas emissions, toxic waste, and wildlife impacts. Katie, thank you for being here.
Thank you. Almost everyone I know feels challenged to survive now. Many of us recognize that the way we live, that this very webinar, for example, challenges other species' survival. Because of our energy intensive lifestyles, the very ecosystems that nourish us are in trouble. When I learn what it takes to manufacture, operate, and dispose of manufactured goods, including industrial wind power, solar photovoltaics, electric vehicles, and this computer that I'm using right now, I realize that I do not know how to function without a refrigerator, a computer, internet access, a phone, and a car, or electricity. I don't know how to have any of these things without harming the earth. So I appreciate this opportunity to listen and talk with others who wrestle with these issues. I remind myself that everyone at the table here, including the people who wrote the Green New Deal, everyone who uses or promotes technologies and infrastructure that harm ecosystems, that would include me, is worthy of respect. I want to focus on product life cycles. Everything we make or buy has a life cycle. I'm thinking of bread, cheese, peanut butter, vitamin supplements, refrigerators, diapers, denim jeans, washing machines, lamps, air conditioners, TVs, computers, smartphones, and motor vehicles, and solar panels. I'm thinking of documentaries, video games, PowerPoints. I'm thinking of insulin pumps and X-ray machines, houses, libraries, schools, and fire stations, and their windows, doors, toilets, and sinks. I'll start with the cradle stage, where every product gets designed. This is actually an energy-intensive process because modern designers use software that took lots of time and energy to be designed on computers that demand lots of energy and extraction themselves. In the manufacturing stage, we start by assembling raw materials. We extract ores. We extract fossil fuels that will power smelting and transporting and assembling those ores. Every computer and battery contains lots of metals and chemicals. Metals like coltan and cobalt are typically mined in Democratic Republic of Congo. When they're refined to a powder, coltan and cobalt can hold charge in mobile devices and vehicles. More people have been murdered over coltan than any other single event since World War II. Child miners have been maimed and buried alive mining for cobalt. After extraction, ores are rinsed in water that doesn't go to farming. Then the ores are transported, typically to another continent, on computer-laden container ships made of steel, powered by climate-warming bunker fuel. This is the dirt-cheap dregs of petroleum refining. They're sent to smelters and refineries. Smelters reduce the metal from the ore. Smelters that make polysilicon for transistors or solar panel silicon wafers are kept at 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit for 6 or 7 years at a time. Because delivery of electricity to the smelter can't be interrupted or the factory could blow up, smelters are typically powered by a combination of coal, natural gas, nuclear, and hydropower. Any product that has a computer in it needs solvents, like N-hexane, used to sterilize circuit boards. Workers who swipe circuit boards with N-hexane can get leukemia and neuromuscular diseases. Circuit boards get transported on bunker fuel-powered cargo ships to assembly plants. One smartphone includes more than 1,000 substances, each with its own energy-intensive, toxic waste-emitting, greenhouse gas-emitting supply chain. By the time a laptop's end user turns their computer on for the first time, this is really important, 81% of its cradle to grave lifetime energy use will be used. This is embodied energy, and we need to include it when we calculate every product's energy use. We need to include the greenhouse gases and extractions embodied in every product. Typically, if you go buy a car, it'll say this car is zero emissions if it's an electric vehicle, and it's not going to look at the energy embodied in manufacturing that vehicle. The same is true for every product.
Katie,
Now that,
Katie,
pardon?
5 minutes.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Now that we've got our product, its operational life begins. It'll need power. The power will need coal, natural gas, nuclear power, hydropower, diesel fuel, or propane. Because solar photovoltaics and industrial wind turbines provide intermittent power, they need backup, typically from natural gas, less occasionally from batteries. If you expect power 24/7, you will need backup 24/7. If your product uses a computer, you will need access networks and data centers. You will need electricity. At the end of life, this is when your item no longer works, it gets recycled or discarded. And these are also energy intensive toxic waste emitting processes. Infrastructure. Every single process I've described so far depends on infrastructure, an electric power grid, natural gas pipelines, highways, trains and railroads, airports, shipping lanes, telecom access networks, and data centers. Solar power and industrial wind turbines also have ecological impacts throughout their life cycles, but we tend not to recognize them. We tend not to recognize the toxins and greenhouse gases emitted while manufacturing silicon wafers for solar panels. We rarely talk about their Teflon coat, the perfluorinated chemicals that render land near solar panels toxic and unfarmable. We rarely talk about the fact that at the end of their life cycle, solar panels are hazardous waste. Manufacturing industrial wind turbines means extracting copper, perhaps from Chile, and neodymium, a powerful magnet, from Baotou, China. For every single ton of metal extracted, 426 tons of waste are generated. And there are so many other problems. Industrial wind turbines can redistribute warm and cool air, which can increase warming temperatures. One wind turbine blade can weigh more than 22,000 pounds, and it does not biodegrade. Unless we include cradle to grave energy use, greenhouse gas emissions, toxic waste, and worker hazards in our evaluations of different power systems, we're not being realistic. If we do include them, then we have a chance at real solutions. Can you all see this slide that I have with my name on it? Is that visible?
Yes.
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 Thank you. Now
Yes.
I have to try to
I
turn.
totally see it.
Okay, but I'm not able to go to the next slide. I'm so sorry.
Sometimes if you
Okay.
use the space bar, oh, you got it.
Okay, so this is a copper mine in Chile. This is actually the world's largest copper mine. These are lithium flats, which you can see take tremendous amounts of water from farmers in order to evaporate. It's an evaporative process that gets the lithium. Here, these are Tibetans whose waterways were poisoned by lithium mining and their fish died. This is a 4-year-old cobalt miner in Democratic Republic of Congo. This is a container ship. I think if container ships were a country, they would rank 6th in greenhouse gas emissions. This is the inside of a data server, of a data center. And they take air conditioning and lots of computers, which all have embodied energy.
Katie, you have 1 minute left.
Thank you. This is a view of a Utah data center, which is visible from outer space. Many of them, they're everywhere, and many of them are visible from outer space. Here's a cell tower, part of the whole network. This is burning of electronic waste in order to recycle it and get a little bit of money. It's highly toxic to everyone involved. These are solar arrays, which of course leak perfluorinated chemicals and do not biodegrade. These are wind turbines being buried in Wyoming. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you so much, Katie. We'll post your website in the chat. Our next speaker is Stan Cox, who is a research scholar at the Land Institute in Salina, Kansas, and author of The Green New Deal and Beyond. Stan, welcome. Stan, are you on mute maybe? You're on mute.
Thanks. I'm here to make two very simple points. One's that probably all of us know already, but that are talked about too little. One of them, that it would be impossible for the entire Earth to consume as much energy per capita as the United States does. And number two, that claims that that the entire world can run on solely on wind, solar, and hydropower at the current energy consumption are not only exaggerated, but they also are highly unjust to most of the world. On this graph here, we have on the left-hand side, that's the Earth's current energy consumption, the continuous flow of about 20 trillion watts throughout the year across the whole globe. The International Energy Agency predicts in the second bar here that by 2050, that'll increase by about 50%. The cornucopian 100% renewable energy studies are one of the most discussed has been Jacobson and colleagues in 2017, and they, by making rosy scenario or conceiving rosy scenarios of big strides in energy efficiency and electrification and so forth, say that by 2050 the entire world can be the entire world with consumption of energy of about what we have today, despite population growth, can be supplied by 100% renewable energy. So if we look at today, if the entire world were consuming energy at the rate that we do in the United States, then it would increase the flow of industrial energy used by humanity by almost 4 times, which clearly, no matter what the source of energy is, that's not feasible. But here with the rosy renewable scenario by Jacobson and others, we have, if that also, instead of assuming that everybody's going to be consuming the same energy they are now, if the whole world were consuming at the rate of what they say the United States would, you would also have an impossibly high requirement for the energy supply. Now, but let's go back to what their study conceives as the quantity of energy that they are aiming for, to say with wind, solar, and hydroelectric power, we can supply that amount. So that amount, so that's still this 20 trillion watts or so. Here is the distribution of energy among countries. So their target for 2050 was extrapolation of the energy consumption in various countries around the world in 2012. So on the left, you have the high consuming countries, Canada, Saudi, and these are a kind of representative sample: Canada, Saudi Arabia, Norway, Australia, New Zealand, USA, Russia, Denmark, with very high energy consumption. Now, down at the other end, you have Yemen, Ethiopia, Haiti, Bangladesh, Kenya, Sudan, Philippines, Nicaragua, Guatemala, Bolivia, India, Vietnam, Cuba. The cornucopian renewable energy scenarios, therefore, would lock in the huge energy disparities that you see around the globe today.
Stan, this is your
yes.
5 minutes notice.
Thanks.
Uh-huh.
And this is all still on the basis of predictions that will have amazing increases in energy efficiency and with electrification, so that our consumption rate right now is about almost 10. That line dropped down, but it's about 9,500 watts per capita here in 2019. Jacobson says that because of efficiency and so forth, will drive it down to 6,000 watts per capita in 2050. So, but it's that's fine for us and for Denmark and Canada and so forth. But it's clearly they had to rely on the huge energy disparities, because it would have been impossible for them to show some roadmap toward bringing all of these bars of all of these other countries up to 6,000 watts per capita that we're going to have. So we're going to be fine, and maybe or maybe not countries down at the other end are going to get enough energy. The bottom dashed line here is at 1,300 watts, which studies have shown is the minimum energy flow, industrial energy flow necessary through a society to sustain a satisfactory level of human development. And clearly a lot of countries, especially in South Asia, Southeast Asia, and Africa, and South America, are not getting, they don't have enough energy flow for proper development. An alternative has been proposed for the industrial countries, the kind of long-standing idea of the 2,000 watt society, saying that's a sustainable level, so there's a very narrow gap between those two. So what's the only way to supply the world with a sufficient flow of energy from non-fossil fuel, non-nuclear sources is going to be for the tall bars here to come to approach and get within this gap, and the low bars on the other side to come up to it. And if that is not a part of a claim of universal cornucopian energy for everyone, then you can disregard those claims.
And you have 1 minute.
Okay, well, I don't need 1 minute just to plug the Green New Deal and beyond it. This is discussed in there, and with a foreword by Noam Chomsky, so don't miss it. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Stan. I'll try to link your book into the chat. I'm pleased to present our next speaker, Omali. Let me see if hold on. How do we say? Yeshitela. I hope I didn't do a bad job. Who's chairman of the African People's Socialist Party and African Socialist International, founder theory of African Internationalism, revolutionary organizer since the 1960s, also launched numerous economic development campaigns. Thank you very much for your time.
Uhuru, thank you very much. I really want to express my appreciation for being able to be here with you. I think it's an extraordinarily important discussion that's happening right now. And I am almost overwhelmed by the important information that's being shared with us by everyone who is here. I want to say that my approach to this question is decidedly different. I am an African internationalist, which means that the starting point for my understanding where we are, how we got to be here, is tied to the act of colonialism, colonial capitalism, which is that mysterious thing that Karl Marx referred to as primitive accumulation of capital, that described how the capitalist system got started in the first place. And he talked about how capitalism came about as a consequence of this primitive accumulation, which turned Africa into a place for the commercial hunting of black skins. And he talked about other things that contributed to the development of the social system of capitalism itself. Many people here, some people here have already heard speak, recognize that capitalism, that there cannot be any rescue of the climate or the planet Earth without an assault on capitalism itself, that capitalism is a social system that is based on commodity production for profit. It comes at the expense of the well-being of all the people on the Earth. And so I think it's extremely important to state that, and also to state that from our perspective, capitalism itself has its origin in colonialism and colonial slavery. This is the foundation that the entire wreck, the entire attack on the social system is based on. We've heard how the European scientists talk about this change. Global warming begins in 1750 with the Industrial Revolution, but the Industrial Revolution came from somewhere. 250 years before the Industrial Revolution, the thing that gave rise to the Industrial Revolution was colonialism, the attack on Africa, the savage attack on Africa that has resulted in perhaps 100 or more million African people being taken from the continent, an assault on the continent of Africa that was turned into an entire. Capitalist, this Africa turned into a vast place for the creation of human beings who would be enslaved and dispersed around the globe as a part of the process of the development of capitalism itself. We're talking about the African continent carved up into these untenable entities that they call countries and sometimes call nations in order for the purpose of extracting all kinds of value, mineral wealth, metals, talking about human resources, the whole bit, and then dispersed around the globe. And so all of this is a parasite that's been dropped on the planet, and it exercises itself, feasting off the host of the colonized peoples of the world. And I want to remind us that capitalism was not born as something in Milwaukee. It's not something that's born in Manchester. It is born as a global system. And this global system came into being in part through what was called the slave trade that helped to create this triangular trade that helped to create for the first time in human history a single world economy. This single world economy is was a mode of production first that we call colonialism that extracts so much value away from Africans and from colonized people of the Americas, destroyed millions of people by 1600, something like 56 million indigenous people, euphemistically referred to as Indians in this hemisphere, were killed through the colonial process. If that's not an attack on the climate, if that's not an attack on nature, I don't know what the hell is. If the war on Africa that became so effective that the ecosystem of the Atlantic Ocean was changed through moving African people from the continent of Africa across the Atlantic and throughout the world, so that sharks learned to follow ships because they knew they were going to eat well, because Africans not wanting to leave Africa were jumping off, or because the capitalists or those those entrepreneurs would throw Africans overboard if it were more profitable to do that. So this is the major assault that we are talking about on the planet Earth. And I think that it's really important to recognize that, because when we talk about what has been lost in this country, about our fishing and our forest, et cetera, think about the fact that there are in this country today, the concentration camps that are referred to as Indian reservations.
Omali, I'm just giving you a 5-minute notice.
Good.
Sorry.
I was just thinking, as you said, that the time is almost up, and it's almost up for a social system that has its origin in killing and raping and pillage of the planet Earth. And it's, again, it is a foundation of colonialism. And so we have the indigenous people who are living in this country now, and we speak of sometime if they happen to be in the room, or if it satisfies our interest in what we call dealing with the global climate crisis, where if that we recognize today as being existential, but I say that it was existential when they were 56 million indigenous people killed in the process of building this entire thing. That was a part of the crisis that people are recognizing today, because it's coming home. This chicken's coming home to roost. And so the foundation of this crisis is colonialism. And now what we're hearing is a green colonialism that's being offered up as a solution to deal with the problem, when the fact is the social system itself is not being touched. I know that there's a lot of some discussion happening about reparations to Africa, and I believe in reparations. Also, I believe in the work that you are doing in terms of whatever can be done to assault this climate crisis. But I recognize that the real assault is on colonial system itself, and that I recognize that it is an existential crisis, and so much so that it's not something that we can soft press. We can not deal with in the most serious kinds of way. All of us, I think this is what's being said by people in this webinar today, that it has to be taken seriously and assaulted with vigor, as if the world depended on it, and we say it does. And because it does, we cannot act like we can deal with this without attacking capitalism. Capitalism must come under assault. It must be destroyed. And you can't destroy capitalism without destroying colonialism. Colonialism is the foundation upon which the whole capitalist thing rests. It is the assault that's being made on Africa. It's the basis for this unending wars that we see the imperialist countries are involved in today, from Yemen throughout Africa, throughout the Americas, and what have you. This is a part of the assault on the climate. The real folk who are environmentalists are the people who fought against colonialism all this time. Geronimo was an environmentalist, and he was an environmentalist not because he had some special concern about trees and planets separate from the concern about the life of the people that was being destroyed, the lives that were being destroyed in order to facilitate the capitalist system, this parasite that's devouring everything. Everybody is crazy to even assume that Europeans, and that includes North America, white people, if you will, can have some kind of quality life, some kind of decent life, some kind of climate secure life, when the life that you live has come at the expense of all the other peoples on earth. What has to happen is, to become real environmentalists, is to join in the struggle against colonialism, destroy colonialism. You don't have to worry about what's happening with these metals and things that are being wasted, what's happening with lithium and all these other things. Destroy colonialism, join that struggle, and then we will save the planet Earth because capitalism will die as a consequence of that too, because capitalism rests upon this foundation of the enslaved peoples of the world. We live in a world today, 80% of the people on the planet Earth are trying to survive off something like $10 or less a day. Something like 50% of the people on the planet trying to survive off $2.50 or less a day. That is the existential crisis that the world is confronted with. Join the world, become real environmentalists, and attack colonialism and destroy capitalism. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you so much,
you.
Chairman.
great, thank you.
Excuse me, just a little emotional. It was really good. All right, so if I may introduce our next speaker, Mr. Don Fitz, 2016 Missouri Green Party candidate for governor, is on the editorial board of Green Social Thought and the author of Cuban Healthcare. Don, welcome.
I will be if you can interrupt for a brief bit. I wonder if you would allow me, as well as Keith Preston, to speak as well.
No, okay. Joe, could you mute anybody who interrupts? Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Joe, you got my slides up? Okay, just waiting for my slides to come up and they should appear momentarily. Okay, great. Let's go to the next one. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to be talking about how we can deal with some of these issues. The first thing, I just want to briefly review what people have said. Summarizing, in my slides, I refer to FFs as fossil fuels, as alt-E as alternative energy. We know that fossil fuels, nuclear energy, like that's a picture of the Chernobyl plant blowing up, and then the major types of alternative energy. Let's go to the next slide. There's a danger of fossil fuels that is there's often overlooked, and that is that people can use the danger of fossil fuels to minimize the dangers of alternative energy. And just to review what other people have said, every type of alternative energy requires fossil fuels. Every type of alternative energy is attacked with civil liberties, land grabs. Every type of fossil fuels requires transmission lines that cause additional land grabs. And the important factor is that since the best land for alternative energy is already taken, each time we have energy expansion, means that a greater amount of land will be taken than the previous time. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, which type of energy should be reduced? All forms of the Green New Deal, I think, agree in the first three, that we reduce I should say, we want to eliminate nuclear power and drastically reduce fossil fuels. At least all Green parties agree on that. What I think a new Green New Deal needs is that we reduce extraction for other types of alternative energy. And that is a fundamental shift from the belief that we need to increase other types of solar, wind, and wind power. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, and we need to watch our language carefully to avoid linguistic detoxification. This is an idea that the environmentalist Barry Commoner came up with several decades ago, where you use language to cover up the dangers of things. Spent fuel rods, we hear a lot about, which are more radioactive than before they went into the nuclear reactor. We should be talking about irradiated fuel rods. Biosolids are things that the agro industry has come up with that is basically toxic sludge, pig manure that has dioxin, asbestos, lead, DDT, and a host of other poisons in it. They spray it on the food that is growing fed to us. Now, current day environmentalists who talk about the Green New Deal have two other forms of what I would call linguistic detoxification, and that is the word clean and the word renewable. There is no such thing as clean energy, as other authors have, as other speakers have said. No energy is renewable. The sun will always shine, but the equipment, the minerals that need to translate that sunshine into energy, they are not renewable. When they're dug up, they're as exhaustible as fossil fuels. Let's go to the next slide. So we basically need to remove clean and renewable energy from any description of energy. Okay, we have two claims made often by a Green New Deal. We can improve the environment and we can manufacture as much stuff as rapidly as possible. Those are completely incompatible. You cannot do both at the same time. because every type of manufacture requires energy, and every type of energy has very bad environmental effects. It damages the communities it's taken from, it damages workers who produce it, and it leads to attacks on civil rights. Okay, let's look at the next slide. So what's missing from most Green New Deals? Green New Deals all talk about Medicare for all. They all talk about housing for all, student loan forgiveness for all, which is very good. We're all in favor of that. I certainly am in favor of it. But what's strangely left out of the current versions of the Green New Deal is a shorter work week for all, which is part of progressive demands for over half a century. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, what is meant by the intensification of labor? In other words, when people talk about a shorter work week, they often say, well, people will just work harder. And that's really that's what we do not want to do with a shorter work week. It means Amazon workers handling more packages per hour. It means a school teacher having more students in each class. That means if you intensify labor when you have a shorter work week, that means you do nothing to increase employment. But what's more important than that even is that an intensification does nothing to reduce unnecessary production. And let's go to the next slide. That is the core of what really needs to be done, is stop producing junk that's not needed. Now, the most obvious factor of production that can be reduced is negative, which is war, cops, destruction of farmland. There's also things that are wasteful, which we usually think of luxuries of the rich, but we also need to think about things that the rest of us are forced to buy, like people have to buy a car to get to work, when huge numbers of people don't even want to have a car, but there's no other way to get to work. Things that are unnecessary. And what I mean is unnecessary production of things like we don't need to have food travels 1,000 miles. We don't need to have food that loses nutrition because it's overprocessed. And the last thing is things that are planned to be obsolescent, planned to fall apart. You're probably looking now at a computer that somebody designed to go out of style within a year to 2 years of its use. And none of these are things that we ask for as citizens, or things that are forced on us by capitalism. If you haven't seen my book on Cuban healthcare, I hope you would take a look at it, because I explain that Cuba has a lower infant mortality rate, has a longer life expectancy, and it spends less than 10% per year per person of what the US does. We can reduce production of virtually everything, some things enormously, other things less, but even healthcare is enormously wasteful. Okay, let's look at the next slide. Okay, for example, a repairability index. These ideas are already being discussed in some parts of the world, like France, but these are examples of what could be done in a progressive society, an ecological society, to make things last longer. Capitalists will claim that they're doing this. I doubt that capitalists are going to do it very seriously, and because the goal of capitalism is to sell as much stuff as possible, which means having things fall apart as rapidly as possible. So this is one of the important reasons why producing less does not mean going without. If you have a phone that I had that lasted for 30 years, as opposed to a phone that was designed to go out of style somewhere between 6 months and 2 years from when you purchase it, we would have to buy less phones. So we need to be designing, a progressive society would design things that last for a long time, instead of designing things intended to last for a short time. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, reparations, I think, are a critical part of what we're talking about. Chairman Omali brought up the critical issues of the exploitation of the third world. Okay, the countries at top generally represent the rich world. The countries at the bottom show the major parts of the world where the extraction largely takes place: Africa, South America, and Asia. Now, it's not a black and white issue. There's certainly a lot of extraction that goes on in the rich world, but we still have, it's not a matter that reparations were, it's not a matter that exploitation was bad 500 years ago and it's been cleaned up. No, there's exploitation going on very intensely now, as other speakers have mentioned. Okay, let's look at the next slide. Okay, these are just 3 examples of what's taken from Africa. People have already mentioned cobalt from the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Uranium powers, just the single country of Mali powers 75% of French nuclear power. And then alternative energy from copper from Zambia goes all over the world. And you see those huge pits at the left side is the Democratic Republic of the Congo, the child labor that Katie talked about. And the other two photos are of these enormous pits that are left all over the world, destroying increasingly large amounts of the land as time goes on. Okay, let's go to the next slide. Okay, what do we need for socially just extraction? It cannot be, you cannot have socially just extraction when you bully people into signing agreements because you tell them they're going to get the necessities of life after the extraction begins. If we want to have socially just extraction, reparations need to be paid by the rich world to the poor world before signing any sort of extraction agreement. And every community, not every country, but every community within every country must have the inalienable right to terminate an extraction agreement if it's exploiting them. Okay, next slide. Okay, how can rich countries show that they value sharing more than greed? One way is to establish a maximum income, which would be a multiple of a minimum income. In other words, if the minimum income was $20 an hour, then however much that worked out to in a year's salary, we would say, okay, what's the maximum income? Would it be 10 times, 20 times, or 100 times of what the minimum income is? The same thing for the maximum amount of wealth, the same thing for the difference between rich countries and poor countries. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, so what's necessary for a Green New Deal? A new green culture. In other words, what we have to propose is to share what we have above all else. We cannot put in a Green New Deal just by a set of laws. It has to have a culture which is phenomenally changed as a result, where everybody shares their ideas about how to live better while reducing energy. Last slide. Okay, I do not believe that Cuba is a worker's paradise, but Cuba has gone tremendously forward in providing healthcare and the basic necessities of life. On the slides that Stan Cox showed, Cuba was having the minimum, or has the minimum amount of energy needed, and it has a longer life expectancy than the U.S. and it has a smaller infant mortality rate. I think it's a really good example for all of us to be looking towards.
Thank you, John, for that discussion. As you all know, John was the coordinator for this event. Barb was our timekeeper. Joe was our webmaster. I think we're going to start the segment for comments. There were some groups who signed up to make comments at the end of this webinar. So the first one we have is from the Young Eco-Socialist Caucus. Sorry?
This is Barb. So these comments are going to be limited to 2 minutes. So I'll give a 1 minute heads up with the next group of speakers.
And also, don't forget that before we start the comments, Chris Mann gets 2 minutes to talk about the next webinar and collecting signatures to get on the ballot.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm sorry, I actually forgot to introduce myself to you at the beginning. I'm Delilah, and from Texas, and I'm part of the Latinx and Indigenous Caucus and also Green Party Texas. Chris Mann, who's also in GPAX too, you're up to announce the next Zoom, please.
Hi, everyone. I'm speaking for the coordinating committee for the Missouri Green Party, and there are 5 chapters of Green Parties in Missouri, and we're always looking for more members and more chapters. You can go to MissouriGreenParty.org to sign up. And this year's forum series has been both topical and outstanding, and we want to continue the series not in June, but in July. July 7th, the webinar will be Transportation Reimagined, exploring the ecological ways of getting from here to there. Gwen Moore from the Missouri History Museum will discuss why the streetcar systems in the United States were dismantled. Our 2020 candidate for governor, Jerome Bauer, will speak about the current St. Louis transit situation as well as pedestrian dangers. John George Bauer will tell us about the history of railroads. Ramona Taylor Williams, who lives in Mississippi, will tell about per community projects that are making communities better. And David Henry will speak about bikeable, walkable communities and what it will take to make them.
Okay, Chris, 1 minute.
Okay. The Green Party is both a political party as well as an activist organization. During the 2020 election cycle, many of our candidates, including our presidential candidates, Howie Hawkins and Angela Walker, were dismissed as being not viable candidates. It was not because the Green Party didn't follow the rules. It was an effort to wipe out sincere and genuine choices for voters. As we learned from constitutional experts at our first forum, third-party suppression is voter suppression. We have an opportunity to take that back here in Missouri. We're launching a petitioning drive to regain statewide ballot status. That means, according to the state legislature, the Green Party needs to get 10,000 signatures just to get our candidates' names on the ballot.
Okay,
We can't
Chris.
just get,
The time
okay.
is up.
I will put our person in charge of petitioning in the chat. He's Nathan Klein. We need help, and thanks so much.
Thank you.
Keep forgetting to unmute myself, sorry. Okay, so now into the comment section. I think we have about 15, 20 commenters. Is anybody here from the Young Eco-Socialist Caucus? I believe Chanel Pittman was gonna make a comment. If she's not here, somebody else here from the Young Eco-Socialist Caucus that would like to leave a comment. Okay,
May I speak? I wonder if you would let me speak as well as Keith Preston as well. Just curious.
I think we have a few people who I am supposed to offer to speak first, and then we should be able to answer questions. Sorry.
So me and Keith Preston can have turns after the main ones get their
Robert,
turns.
I'm on the speaker roster.
I'm glad to hear, Keith.
Thanks, guys. Okay, next is.
And can I think of an idea for a greener New Deal, especially when it comes to environmentally friendly energy and manufacturing? Imagine if we got like Nikola Tesla style free energy tech.
Sir, I'm sorry, but we have speakers that have signed up.
Oh, sorry, my bad.
At the end, there will be time for other speakers.
Okay, including me and Keith Preston. I should wait patiently.
Yes.
I will get to Keith soon. Okay, is Justine Novella available of the Uhuru Solidarity Movement?
Yes, I'm here.
Hello.
Hello, Uhuru. Thank you so much. I would like to extend greetings to the Missouri Green Party and to all of the sponsoring organizations responsible for this event tonight. And I'm speaking as a representative of one of the organizations that co-sponsored the Uhuru Solidarity Movement, the organization of white people formed and led by the African People's Socialist Party to organize in the white community for solidarity with African liberation and to build the mass movement for reparations to African people. We have the honor to work under the leadership of the African People's Socialist Party and our chairman, Omali Yeshitela, whose presentation tonight so clearly and eloquently exposed the truth about the roots of this environmental crisis imposed on the world today, a crisis born of the colonial assault on African people and the colonial capitalist mode of production itself. We unite with the chairman's powerful words and rejection of the false and empty plea for climate reform that fails to target the system built on slavery and genocide at the base of all contradictions in the world today. That the true stance for us white people who want to stand in defense of the planet Earth is to go beyond plastic straws, electric cars, or shifting the burden of ecological destruction from a carbon-based infrastructure to one that is based on stolen lithium. That the colonial capitalist must be forced to pay reparations to African people, and only when African, indigenous, and colonized people are free, independent, and in control of their own resources can the earth itself be healed. We call on white people who are concerned about the future of life on the planet to hear what Chairman Omali Yeshitela has said tonight, that what we consider an existential threat to us today is colonialism, and us, the colonizers, have always been the existential threat to the colonized for 6 centuries. So Thank you, and I would like to invite everyone here who wants to stand on the side of the colonized to join us by going to uhurusolidarity.org and register for our upcoming conference, the Reparations Legacy Conference on June 12th, 2021, reparationslegacy.org/conference, where Chairman Omali Yeshitela and other leaders of the Uhuru movement will discuss plans to organize reparations from the moneyed sector and the ruling elites in this country. And we believe this is the road led by the African working class that leads to a world where all living beings can exist in true peace based on justice and reparations. Uhuru and reparations now.
Thank you so much, Jesse. Zaki Baruti from the Universal African Peoples Organization is listed next to make a comment.
Yes, greetings, power to the people. Let me first and foremost compliment the panelists. There was a lot of powerful information that has been shared, but just as the previous speaker, Brother Nevels, has just made mention, the bottom line solution to the problem facing the world population is the scourge of the earth, and that scourge being capitalism and imperialism, along with colonialism. So I'm in total agreement with the analysis that Brother Chairman Omali Yeshitela brought forth, and appreciate all the kind of information about the problems that the other panelists have presented. As well as I'd like to say that as an example in terms of revolution being necessary and a positive outcome is just look at the example in Cuba, as Don Fitz had made mention in terms of how they have set an example of environmental free policy that should be implemented across the globe. So
this is just a 1 minute notice.
Okay then. And so it's in that spirit again, I just want to reemphasize that just like the old Dracula movie, where a stake was driven into Dracula, that's what needs to be done to kill Dracula. That's what needs to be done as it relates to capitalism. And as an extension of that, of course, our organizations support reparations, not only for the Africans living here within this country, but throughout the diaspora, as well as the repayment for the rape and plunder that occurred on Africa, throughout Africa. So to that end, again, I just want to compliment this information that has been shared on the webinar. So again, power to the people. Death to capitalism, imperialism, and colonialism. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Let's next commenter, David Finkel from Solidarity, or Diane Feely. Are either of you available for comment?
Yes, I think we're both here, but I'll
hi.
Hi, I'm Diane, and I'm from Solidarity's Eco-Socialist Working Group. Other people have pointed out how much information, and Dawn put forward, I think, some principles for how we can make this transition that we need, which obviously has to be an economic, social, and political, and I would say cultural transition as well. And I would just put 3 points. One is it has to be democratic. We have to be deciding this, and we have to be accountable. What does it take? What energy does it take to produce? What is the life cycle? And the third point is it must be just. And that means, of course, that those of us in the global north have to pay particular attention to the reparations in the global south. But actually, the global north also has global south. I live in Detroit, which is really, in terms of the poverty and pollution and so forth, very similar to countries in the South, and has a higher infant mortality rate.
Diane, this is a 1 minute reminder.
Great. I just want to point to something that we can think about. I think Dawn's point about the reduction of the work week is absolutely important if we're to make a a transition so that we can walk or bike to work as opposed to taking cars. Another thing is that, yes, we will reduce our material needs, but our cultural needs will really grow. And I would encourage everybody to think about what we can do in the build-up to COP26, which will be taking place in Glasgow, Scotland, and how can we relate to that and to show the countries of the world that we're not going to wait for them to come up with solutions, and to organize local demonstrations at the beginning of November. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Diane. I'm sorry about I didn't get your organization right at first. So we have Justin Philippe from the Pacific Green Party of Oregon. Are you available, Justin? If some people are not here, I will just move to the next one. So do we have Tommy James or Jan Martell from the North Carolina Green Party to leave a comment?
Yeah, Tommy James here with the North Carolina Green Party. Okay. Thank you so much for this, Missouri Green Party. This is an excellent discussion, and I've really appreciated hearing from the speakers. They did an excellent job. The North Carolina Green Party recognizes that a capitalist economy and a two-party political system in this country that serves the needs of capital and not the needs of people or planet is unable and unwilling to take the necessary steps to solve our problems. That means that beyond our focus on sound environmental policy development, which is important, we must do two things: educate ourselves and the public on the limitations of our capitalist economic and political structure, our warmongering and imperialism, and we must build a mass movement to create independent political power. This is from the preamble of our platform. The North Carolina Green Party is an anti-racist, feminist, pro-labor party that supports gender equality and gender diversity and rejects capitalism in favor of a democratically run economy that responds to the needs of the community and planet. We believe positive social and political change will come when progressive and radical people determine that movement activism must also include this critical element: building our own political power outside of the confines of the capitalist two-party system. For this reason, the North Carolina Green Party is a membership-based dues-paying party that is fundamentally and structurally different from the two major parties. We are funded by individual working class members, not corporate interests in the ruling elite. Power to the people and planet over profit.
Thank you. Just a few seconds left.
We're done. I'm done.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tommy. Do we have Miss Betty Davis from the New Abolitionist Movement? Betty
Good
Davis.
evening.
Hello.
Hi. Again, I want to thank you for arranging this wonderful webinar, and I salute everyone who decided to be a part of the solution instead of the problem. I especially want to salute Chairman Omali Yeshitela, because the analysis of capitalism cannot be complete without the analysis that as European capitalism moved across the globe, 90% of the cultures were disappeared. So what that means is people like the Cherokee who talked about how the plants decided to save man when man was reproducing too much and killing the animals around them. And the plant said, we will save man. So what does it mean when the plants save man? It means you need the trees because they produce oxygen. It means you need the herbs. That's a plant that heal people. It means you need the teas that help people think. all of these things that the Western world is now just beginning to understand. What is it, 500 years later? The people who we called, or they called Indians and savages, knew way back then.
Betty, I'm sorry to do this, but you have about a minute left.
And if you look at the words of Chief Joseph, when he said, I will fight no more forever, but then he predicted what we would be going through now. So we must pick up his baton. We must continue to fight. We must fight for our freedom fighters. An eco-terrorist gets almost the same time as somebody who commits a murder. So we have got to pick up the gauntlet where Chief Joseph left off. We got to look at it from way back when it first started. And we've got to have solutions to that. Community control of education. Teach parents how to fight. Teach parents how to take control. Teach parents what democracy looks like. And they will understand why the earth is important. You can't let charter schools raise your kids. You can't let corporations take over your children's minds and think you can have a democracy that will fight for a greener New Deal. It ain't gonna happen.
Betty,
Support public schools.
I'm sorry your time's up. Thank you
you.
so much for your comment on charters. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Betty. Do we have Khalid Rahim from New African Independence Party to make a comment? Maybe he's not here. Okay. Mr. I believe it's he, Elston McCowan from the NAACP. Elston, are you available? Okay. I don't see anybody raising their hand yet for that. All right. What about Ralph Pointer from the Lynn Stewart organization? I'm just going to keep moving. Are you there?
Get there. Oh, good evening, brothers and sisters.
Great.
Great.
Thank
Very
you.
important, the issues that you have touched upon. It's a beginning when you identify the problem. And as I listen to this program, not enough of the problems have been identified, but enough of the problems to make us think. And that's the first step. We're thinking about changing this, I won't name call, this society that we call America. It's broken. It must be fixed. Thank you for your efforts.
Thank you so much, Elston.
Ralph.
Oh my gosh, Ralph, I'm so sorry. I just read Betty. I'm so sorry. I mixed up your name. Ralph. Thank you for correcting me. Goodness. Okay. Yes, so that's Ralph Pointer from the Lynn Stewart organization. All right. Do we have Kent Rowe available of the Kansas Green Party?
Yes, thank you, Delilah. I'm Kent Rowe, co-chair of the Kansas Green Party, and very enjoyable presentations tonight. I was a presenter last time. Betty Davis has really stolen my thunder. There was a study that came out just at the end of March from Yellowstone National Park on bison, what you all call buffalo. And the bison were allowed to free range under wide areas of the Yellowstone. And indeed, they thought the animals were overgrazing because they were clipping off the grasses too short, and they'd come back along and cut them off again. But they found out when they did that, the grasses didn't dry out and the soil actually sequestered more carbon and retained more moisture. And furthermore, they also found that it did establish a microclimate. So you see that the bison or the buffalo actually created this country, this land. We talk too much about humans let's go for more wildlands, prairie easements, and so forth. And that is very apparent in Dan Wildcat's book, Red Alert, Saving the Planet with Indigenuity, indigenous peoples. You don't think about indigenous people, the Plains Indians and so forth, as being engineers. But they labeled the bison as probably the main engineer of this land. And it took hundreds of thousands of years of transformations to evolve.
This is just a 1-minute reminder.
Yes, thank you very much. And that is essentially my presentation. And thank you all for this. So keep the animals in mind. Human beings are also animals in native cultures.
Thank you so much, Kent. If we could, let's see, Jeffrey Sutter from Indiana Green Party, are you available? I only have a short list in front of me. No, Jeffrey. All right. Anna Scheffelbein from the Illinois Green Party. Anna?
Hi.
Hello.
What a nice presentation. Thanks for having us on. So I'm from the Illinois Green Party. We are doing a lot with organizing. We have Basecamp, which is a project management software where we have coalitions, issue-based. We just started doing this just recently, so we're building up. And then we also have Action Network for our organizing members. So they can do petitions, campaigns, unlimited websites. So we have a lot to offer, and we have a low cost for, we have a low cost, so we can allow to have a lot of people on for very low amount. So email volunteer@ilgp.org. We'll get you in a coalition. But yeah, we are organizing a lot. And we actually have did a May Day action, physical action. So that was nice to get out and socially distance. So that's all I had. We just have to move forward. And this is one of the ways that we can do it, is working together and getting out there. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anna. I'm really excited about your May Day event, and I added the website to the chat for anybody interested. Do we have Dr. Mark Schuler, who wrote Humanity's Last Stand?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks so much for the inspiration. And I wanted to say I've learned a lot today, and especially appreciate the way in which the analyses are really grounded in struggle, especially Omali and Betty's analysis, that it is about capitalism. And it is about racial capitalism. We need to use that word racial capitalism and colonialism as already connected. The climate change that we're experiencing now, if you look at an anthropological timeline, this is the last day in humanity's 35-year life. And so this is what's unsustainable. Also, we need to be thinking about how these issues are already connected in real terms. The Dakota Access Pipeline, for example, many mainstream environmental groups missed it because they were fighting for treaty, water, sovereignty, and that wasn't climate change at the time. And so we need to be having an anthropological imagination to help connect the dots. And what was mentioned, I don't believe anyone, well, Dan Wildcat and indigenuity was mentioned. The Red New Deal, I think, needs to be also forwarded up into the conversation because these are connected. We need to be thinking in terms of solidarity, that we need to be accomplices and not just allies. So we need to be forging an anthropolitics, building up. When you see the struggle locally here, start to unravel, and you'll start to discover the same investors that are in the Dakota Access Pipeline, the wall from Mexico-US border, and the wall in Gaza, for example. So we do need to be thinking in terms of environmental justice and climate justice as always a struggle against racism and against racial capitalism. So I want to thank you all. I do have a book that just came out. So if you're interested in learning a little bit more about how you can put these issues together, there are some solutions that might be of interest. And I'll just put those in the chat. Truly contemporary climate change is not some distant dystopian future. It's happening now. To put places in Haiti, for example, indigenous people in Alaska and Louisiana, and happening for several hundred years. The roots of climate change are anchored within the global economic order and the racism inherent to it. It needed to justify the wide-scale murder, theft, and forced removal and enslavement necessary to run. So we always have to be talking about justice. As far as solutions, it has to come from the bottom up, as was mentioned, but it has to have a specific analysis that connects climate change with racism and racial capitalism. So thank you all. I'm going to just throw these in the chat, and I wanted to cede my time to hear from other folks as well.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Is Charles Law of the Green Party of Washington available?
Yes, I'm here.
Hello, thank you.
Hi. First of all, I'd like to thank the presenters and Missouri Greens. I believe there's a need to add green sex to any Green New Deal. Some environmental groups will tell us all we have to do is install solar panels and drive electric cars. Problem solved. Well, my question for the panel is, what we know about climate change, should anyone add another child into this future? And can we really tackle the climate issue without talking about population? Thanks so much.
Thank you, Charles. Ryan Westock of the Green Party of Virginia, are you available, Ryan?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, do you think you could talk a little bit louder? I'm having...
Sure. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you just fine. Thank you.
Okay. Well, first I want to thank the panelists for talking. I think it was an excellent presentation, and I want to thank the host for putting this all together. This was excellent. I guess I'll just briefly say that I was taking notes as everyone was talking, and it seemed to me that I was mostly in agreement with what everyone had to say. And it kind of boils down to just a couple questions. There's the set of questions about how much to produce, and the answer is just less of it, which is something that capitalism just can't do. And then there's the questions of, well, of what we produce, of what energy we make, of what things we make, who's going to pay the cost, and how are we going to decide that? And one of the things that I've really appreciated about my time in the Green Party here in Virginia is that I feel like there's been an understanding of how these things are very intersectional. You really can't answer the question of climate change without talking about capitalism. You really can't answer the questions of climate change without talking about social justice, without talking about the historical inequities. And I'm glad that so many people brought up history in their talks. As an historian, I couldn't agree more that we really can never address things in the present without talking about that kind of past. And so I'm happy to be able to do that kind of work every day. And I know that so many other people in the Green Party do that as well. If you're interested in helping us kind of make those connections and fight for those kind of issues, you can go to vagreenparty.org and join us in that fight.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ryan. If you feel like dropping the link in the chat, that would be super helpful. Do we have Rick Greenblatt of Green Party of San Diego? Rick Greenblatt, are you there? Cannot tell. I'm gonna move on. Green Party of Pennsylvania, Tina Olson, are you available to leave a comment?
Sure. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for inviting me. This has been incredible. Altogether, what we're doing in Pennsylvania is looking at, our first speaker was Joan McKiernan talking about fracking. That's a huge issue. More on the western part of our state. I'm in the eastern part of our state. A lot of conversations just revolve around the corruption that is within our state houses, our legislation. What we're working on is a gift ban. One of the few states left that doesn't have a ban on gifts to our legislators. And that is a huge problem, and why fracking is such a big deal in Pennsylvania. So one step at a time. Again, I appreciate being invited tonight. A lot of information. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tina. It's good to see you. Green Party of New York, Mark Dunlea, are you here, Mark?
Delilah, can you hear me?
Yes.
So I'm wondering if we want to ask the speakers in order their presentations if they want to make a comment about anything that's come up so far.
Well, I don't know. Will we we'll be able to answer questions or not? Because I still have a few more people on the list you sent me.
Okay. All right. That's fine.
So just keep, okay.
We'll keep going. We'll ask at the end if the presenters want to comment.
Okay. Is Dennis Galley available, Green Party of Kansas City? I'm just going to keep moving on.
Yeah. I'm here on Chris Mann's account.
Hi there.
So I've been thinking about the Green New Deal. And since I was trained as an economist, I think we ought to get out of some of the old bad habits of thought and think about what production really is. So what is production? Our motto in the Green New Deal should be produce less and distribute it fairly. That comes from the Green Social Thought website. And that's the new aspect of economics that I think we really have to try to get in our head. We do have to produce less, as many of the speakers have said, and not worry about, is this going to make all of us poor? Well, how poor can we be? We have a pandemic. We have great waste, as Don pointed out. We have negative production, which is war and killing of people and wasting of resources. So our motto really should be produce less and distribute it fairly. And that gets us down to what is an economy? What is an economic system? It's really a social system. It's not just about producing X number of things or so many dollars worth of things. And our world system today is all about competition, hierarchy, and masculinism. And these are the relationships that guide the economic system that we have. And in addition, racism is a major part of it. As one of the Uruhu speaker pointed out, that it's imperialism, colonialism, and the history of Western racism. So
I'm just giving you a minute reminder.
Okay, thanks. So I think we have to consider not just the exploitation of labor, which has always been a part of capitalism, but also the primitive accumulation aspect of it, which is the stealing of labor, stealing of resources, and stealing even of people. So we need to consider the class, gender, and race aspects of our society when we define the Green New Deal. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dennis. Are any of my GPACs members here? Is Eugene available to leave a comment? Eugene Wallace. I'm murdering your name, Eugene. I'm so sorry. Wallason. I thought I saw him a second ago. Okay. Well, I don't know if Eugene's going to make a comment after all. So Richard Yost of Albuquerque metro area. Are you available, Richard?
Yes. Hi. Thanks for presenting this webinar. And first off, I would like to say that of course we're the Green Party of the Albuquerque metropolitan area, which is it spans a 4-county area: Bernalillo County, Sandoval County, Torrance, and Valencia counties. And we're, you know, the largest metro in the state. First of all, I would like to thank all of the presenters for their presentations. Very informative. I know that for myself, you know, there were some things there that I didn't even realize were issues, and they were definitely thought-provoking statements. And as far, you know, as far as, you know, what we've been discussing tonight is that, yeah, really and truly, of course, you know, they, you know, you hear the other politicians, political parties, organizations and such saying, oh, let's do this, let's have renewable energy, let's have electric cars, and so on. But really, we really need to move past that. Or basically what I'm saying is we just really need to move past the astroturfing or greenwashing that these, you know, various entities are foisting upon us. And really get to the root of the problem, which of course it is, I mean, it just goes without saying, capitalism and colonialism and imperialism. And of course, you know, once that's dealt with, you know, yeah, we can deal with the climate. And I know, like here out west, it's you know, climate change is quite a big issue because right here, I mean, it's just being in the desert Southwest, it's dry enough as it is, and then of course all the droughts are going to affect us more than maybe in some other places. So
Richard, this is Barb, just giving you a warning, your time's actually up.
okay, thank you. I was pretty much done anyway.
Okay, thank you very much.
I will stop doing that. Angie Mueller, who is this Green Social Thought? Is that a book that you wrote? Angie Mueller, are you available? Okay, I'm gonna move on. Carly Town of Code Pink, are you available, Carly? Okay, let's see, Richard Sprout from Broome, Tioga Green Party.
Oh, I didn't know I was going to speak, but very quickly, great presentation by everybody. Just I'm thinking of two things. Rosa Luxemburg famously said socialism or barbarism. I think that's what we're headed for. And May Day just happened. I think our new slogan should be workers of the world, relax. You have nothing to lose but your boredom. Terrific presentation.
Awesome. I think one of our people, I need to get back to them. Next we have, oh gosh. Diop Olgbala. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Of the Black Community Control of the Police. Diop, did I say it right? Are you there? I'm sorry. Okay, how about Keith Preston?
Hello. I've heard some discussion of the relationship between environmental destruction and imperialism and colonialism this evening, and I want to touch on that a little bit more. I'm glad others have pointed that out, because one of the primary destroyers of the environment worldwide is the American military-industrial complex. So any effort to, any kind of movement that takes ecological issues seriously has to first and foremost be opposed to the American military-industrial complex. Just a tiny little bit of information here. If the US military were a country, it would be the 47th largest emitter of greenhouse gases alone in the world. That's just greenhouse gases. Annually, the American Armed Forces create 750,000 tons of toxic waste in the form of depleted uranium, oil, jet fuels, pesticides, defoliants, lead, and other chemicals. Of the 1,200 Superfund sites in the United States today, 900 of those are abandoned military sites. The United States military uses 21 billion liters of fuel every year. That's more than the entire body of carbon emissions from Denmark. In 2017 alone, the US military emitted more than 25,000 kilotons of carbon dioxide by burning fuels.
Stephen, I'm just giving you a minute reminder.
All right, thank you. Also, as far as other issues, the city of Tucson actually sued the Air Force because the Air Force was actually leaking an industrial solvent, TCE, and into the water table in the area for 29 years. And that caused about 1,350 residents to suffer from cancer and other illnesses. Their naval base, the US Naval Base in Norfolk, spilled 84,000 gallons of jet fuel into the waterway. And so if ever there was an enemy of the ecosystem, it was the American military industrial complex. So I think that needs to be a special focus of our wrath and ire.
Delilah, GPAX would like to speak. I was muted.
Oh, sorry, Eugene. Thank you. Go ahead.
The Peace Action Committee of the Green Party welcomes new members. In terms of the subject of this event, who funds the climate disaster? The Sunrise Movement have demonstrated against Chase and other big banks. Wall Street creates over $1 trillion per year to fund fossil fuels, and things like methane into single-use plastic also funds private prisons, et cetera, et cetera. Wall Street is the key element of the US capitalist system. It's responsible for us paying an average of 17% on charge cards, or if other corporations like charge up to 26% on their charge cards, like Home Depot and Amazon. The federal Green New Deal authorizations, if they come, are dwarfed by Wall Street bank money given to dirty fuel. Wall Street also uses secret off-balance sheet companies that crashed Enron in 2002. We will eventually have to take on Wall Street to confront climate change.
Eugene, I'm just going to give you a minute notice.
Yes, Pentagon is a giant fossil fuel user. On April 19th, Bloomberg Businessweek said that confidence in the US military is down from 70% in 2018 down to 58% in February of this year. The attack on the Capitol was probably part of that fall. Confidence really means a lack of confidence in the Pentagon brass and civilians in the cabinet, the president, and Congress. We must focus on vulnerabilities of the capitalist system and divisions among the 1%. One book that can help us understand this is history. The book is Ages of American Capitalism by Jonathan Levy, published 2 weeks ago, which goes into the financial and economic history of the United States, history plus finance, explaining a lot of things. I will put the title of the book and the information in the chat. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Eugene. Good to see you. Do we have, I hope I'm pronouncing this right, Yeshitela Orunmila from the African National Women's Organization?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you.
Okay, first, I just want to appreciate the entire panel and all the discussion and comments in the comment section from everyone who is participating in this, this webinar tonight. I am the president of the African National Women's Organization, which is a strategy of the African People's Socialist Party to bring African women, Black women into revolutionary political life and address the special oppression that African women face as a result of being colonized under this system of capitalist colonialism. Our Chairman Omali Yeshitela, and all of the rest of the speakers did a really great presentation. However, we want to definitely unite with the chairman's presentation on the basis of environmental issues that are happening in the world today, and particularly centering the African working class and the impact that the environment and the economy has played on African people, and that the foundation of capitalist, the worldwide system of capitalist colonialism itself, is the enslavement of African people and the theft of our resources. When we talk about African solar farm that was initially pitched to solve the problems of Europe, empower Europe, when we talk about colonialism and enslavement changing the entire agricultural landscape of this land, and of course of the theft of African people, the kidnapping of African people, millions of African people from the continent of Africa, had a huge environmental impact on the world, and particularly and of course of the killing and the rape of this land and the attack on indigenous people. And so, central to
this is Barb. This is just a 1-minute reminder.
Yes, so central to this ecological and environmental question is definitely the people, and particularly when we're talking about ending capitalism, we cannot avoid talking about the foundation of capitalism, which is the attack on Africa, and the organizing of African people, which is what the African People's Socialist Party is doing, organizing the African working class to take power and create a socialist state that is going to overturn the whole capitalist system and create solutions for ourselves, but that will have a reverberating impact on the rest of the planet. And so I think that it's really critical for us to look at people as resources, because African people have been, for hundreds of years, our labor and our ideas have been used to prop up, be the pedestal for capitalist imperialism. And so once we have the ability to do these things for ourselves, and I think through some of the issues that capitalist colonialism has caused, and we will be able to, fix, we have the time, the space, the energy to fix all the problems that have plagued our lives as a result of capitalism. So again, I just want to appreciate everybody for this panel, and appreciate the chairman and the other panelists for your expertise. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you for correcting me. I did not have that you were the president of your organization. I apologize. If any of the speakers have answers to questions that they've seen in the chat, we'll start with Joan, if you have any further comments to make before we end this.
Just thank you, everybody. Everybody's comments were terrific, but I do want to object strongly to the idea that we should turn to population control as a method of dealing with climate change. We human beings are creative. We human beings have the greatest potential. We have control. We have done so much in history. Good things, bad things as well. But look, we're within the capitalist system. We're held back. We're held back because you can't do anything unless it's going to make a profit for billionaires, right? Get us free from that. That means breaking through that system. We don't have to go and reduce ourselves down to saying, you can't have kids or you can't have kids. That's going to lead to class and race control. That's what it's about. Poor people and Black people throughout the world will be told, no, you have enough kids. We don't need yours anymore. All right. So don't go there, people. Think big. Think getting rid of the capitalist system so that we are free to get rid of, to save our climate, which is what we heard about tonight. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much, Joan. I appreciate that. Katie Singer, did you have any final comments?
May I make some comments?
I'm supposed to ask the speakers. I'm sorry, I have an agenda they told me to follow. I apologize.
Bummer, I only wish I could make a comment.
I will try to get to you after I just go through the list. Katie, is there anything you want to add before we get to tying this up? Oh, I think we might have lost Katie Singer. I actually don't see her on here anymore. Okay, Stan, how about you? Do you have any closing thoughts, comments?
I think just as a closing comment, we should all support the movement for a fossil fuel non-proliferation treaty, which would be modeled on the nuclear non-proliferation treaty, which would require the high energy consuming, high emissions countries to drastically cut at a very rapid rate their consumption of fossil fuels, while at the same time of funding development of adequate energy resources in the rest of the world, which would bring the, in that graph I showed, it would bring the, what is called contraction and convergence, the contraction of the global energy consumption, while the rich and the poor countries are converging on a more equitable per capita use of energy.
Great, thank you so much. I agree. Chairman Yeshitela, would you like to leave any final comments?
Yeah, thank you very much. I just wanted to clarify one thing, is certainly from my perspective, from the position I was putting forth. I'm an African internationalist, and I have an understanding of what gave rise to the whole social system. When we talk about colonialism, we're not talking just about an incident or something that happens over here every now and then. We're talking about the emergence of a global social system, a mode of production by which the humanity, for the most part, achieves what it's required for our existence. And this comes from colonialism. And that is the foreign and alien domination of peoples around the world. This is how Europe escaped poverty and disease, stretched out upon the globe, throughout Africa, throughout the Americas, and what have you, and created a social system that requires our subjugation and extraordinary theft of our resources and wealth and life as a condition for its existence. What I'm saying is that there is no way out of here, and there's no way we're going to be able to even assume that somehow anybody here is going to decide to give Africa this or give Africa that, or even that some kind of imperialist reparations is going to solve the contradiction that we're dealing with. This social system has to go. And it's not about something going to happen a long time from now. We've talked about millions of indigenous people who've died, who are living in concentration camps right now as we have this discussion. And it's not just lithium that's killing them. Before there was lithium, we were dying. And we were dying because of this attack on us, on what is now called Mexico. Half of Mexico stolen at gunpoint. And this is one of the bases for this extraordinary difference that we see in terms of the quality of life of people on the planet Earth and what has happened to the Earth itself. And how can we talk about the climate and the environment that does not address the question of all of these people being murdered? The fact that more than 1 million Africans in prison in this country alone. 1 out of every 8 human beings on the planet Earth who's in prison is an African in the United States. This is what we're looking at. This is the foul social system, and there's no way that it's going to be redeemed. And the idea that somehow we're going to spend it this way and appropriately have clean energy this way, and this social system continues to exist is crazy because it's existing at the rest of us. And my intention and the intention of oppressed peoples around the world is to destroy it. And what has to happen is that you have to become real environmentalists and join with the colonized peoples of the world to overturn this social system that's sucking life from the planet and from all the people on the planet Earth.
Thank you, Omali. Your time, unfortunately, your time is up. I could listen to you a lot longer, but thank you very much. Thank you.
And time is up for imperialism too.
Thank you. Yay.
Yes. Absolutely. I think Don, does Don want to leave a comment? I know
Yeah.
Robert does. Okay, Don, go ahead.
Okay, one of the things I really did not get to cover in my presentation was the concept of free, prior, and informed consent. And whenever people become involved in opposing imperialist extraction, what they're going to be told is that the International Labor Organization, Section 69, says that no, this is already taken care of because every community has to give free, prior, and informed consent before extraction of natural resources takes place. Well, this is totally absurd. It never, there is no such thing as free, prior, and informed consent. One reason is because people cannot be informed, since nobody knows all of the ecological damage that can be done from mining or erecting a dam, which totally changes the ecological nature, destroys fishing, destroys everything about farming. And so this cannot be possibly known beforehand. But what's even more important about the falsity of free, prior, and informed consent is that this is typically given to poor communities, and their people are told, okay, you don't have medical care, you don't have employment, you don't have enough food to eat. If you allow this extraction project, if you allow us to put this mine in or this dam in, then we're going to give you all of these things and you will have them. Well, this is simply not, this has historically not been the case. I mean, one time I had sort of free, prior, and informed consent when somebody pointed a gun at me and said, well, give me your wallet. And, you know, that was a sort of a free, prior, and informed consent that I would, if I gave him the money, he wouldn't blow my guts out. Well, that's basically what's being told to poor communities all over the world today. You know, we will keep you starving. We will keep you without medical care until you agree to this extraction project, and then you'll get things. No, if there's going to be reparations, the reparations have to be made prior to the extraction project, and every community has to have the right to terminate the extraction project at any time they want to.
Thank you so much, Don. If it's all right, Robert had some comments he'd like to make. Robert Smith.
So regarding environmentally friendly solutions for like manufacturing and energy, how does Nikola Tesla style free energy technology manufactured entirely out of hemp sound? Hemp batteries exist.
That's really good to know.
I would like to also discuss not just this, plus some other ideas with Keith Preston as well in this conference.
I don't know that we can help with that, but I do appreciate your comment about hemp-powered batteries. That's very helpful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And we should also pull all the plastic out of the ocean and the landfills and make stuff out of it.
That's also a good idea. It's a smart initiative. I just wanted to one more time thank Missouri Greens and everybody participating, all of our speakers. Thank you so much. This was a great webinar and I learned a lot, and thank you all very much for your time and energy in this.
I'm glad I got to talk with Keith Preston. Peaceful anarchy for the win. Guys, gals, and neon binaries. Neon as in the Japanese word for meow. And here's my kitty cat.
Oh.
I only wish he could turn into a cute petite anime cat girl.
Okay. Thank you. We're gonna close this up now.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone. That concludes our webinar, unless Dawn has anything else to say.
Delilah, thank you. You did great.
Thank you all so much. I'm learning. I appreciate you letting me be involved.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Oyasumi.
Night. Good night.
Good night. It was great.
Oyasumi.
Delilah, you did a good job.
Oh, there's
Thank
Aaron.
you.
There's Aaron's book.
Oyasumi mina.
Good night, Robert. Thank you.
And ideologically speaking, I'm a left libertarian, mutualist, and individualist anarchist. And I also need to point out that I'm autistic.
Well, thank you for participating. That was great.
You're welcome.
Thank you. And Joe, thank you.
Hey, Joe, do you know how many people were on tonight?